5th, 6th, 10th, 11th.
Yeah.
A few complain or many complain.
Yeah.
Whatever I meant, imeisha. What happens? Where is the problem? Let's start there.
Yeah. I want to give a brief introduction of who I am, because it's good to talk from a place of authority so that people know it's not book knowledge. That I've been in employment.
Yes.
For the better part of my life, I've been a banker. And bankers are paid quite on time and a good pay for that. Yeah. Most of them. And I have seen exactly what you're talking about from an employed place, where you're paid even 100,000 or let's call it 50 or whatever amount, and you're not even able to meet half of the month. And then after some time, yes, I've been a banker for 10 years with various institutions. Then I have gotten to self-employment, where I do my trainings and my financial coaching. And again, the same challenge. You earn into a business, you go get a good deal, but ukijaribu kugawa pesa, the challenge is across board. So there must be an underlying principle that people must understand on how money is managed and how money works. Because SAMMY, if today your salary changes, let's say from 50 to 100, it will take just a month or two for you to tell us that Aitoshi. Then if salaries rise again from 100 to 200, it will take 2-3 months. What really happens? That's a conversation we should have, because money seems to be going faster. There's a friend of mine who says that the month is longer than the pay. Yeah. So how are we supposed to manage the money we get? Because it's not about how much we make, but the principles that underlie to make you live comfortably and grow and get to a point where expenses are not worrying you, because there's that place also.
Let's now start here. With that 50 you started with, so let's bring it down to 20,000 a month. Yeah. That is the much someone is taking home every single month. Let's say now it's 30th. What are some of the principles that you work around with this money to make sure it serves you well?
There are 3 things I want to talk about today when it comes to the cost of living and how to manage with it. Allow me to just give the major highlights of the 3 things I want to talk about. Yes. One is the value of money today and value of money tomorrow. Yes. Very important. Inflation. Number 2, yeah, exactly, inflation. Number 2 thing I would want to talk about is for you to manage, how do you manage with what you have? So what I would call sustainable spending. That is the second thing I would want to talk about. And the third, because as the cost, kuna mtu mwenye ana watch saa hii, and they are gotten to the point where that money, hata akifanya nini, even if we told them, switch off the light when you're going out, and all the tips we'll tell them, it's not enough. Clearly it's not enough. Because if you are buying an unga at 100, and now you are buying at 200, clearly, even if you keep on telling that person, be economical, and all the tips you can give them, that money is not enough. Yes. Amerudisha mtoto at a public school, and I walk to work, and that money is not enough. So the third thing I would want us to talk about is how to get an extra, increasing your income. Once we talk about those three things, I think we'll have helped our viewer to juggle around these hard times.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Let's start with value of money. We understand that inflation is affecting the much money we have. Yes, right now I was just listening to a friend of mine, was it on Sunday, telling me that immediately you break that 1,000 note, it is done. Yes, tell us about the value of money.
The value of money and inflation. Inflation, Nikki defined with the simplest terms, is the rate at which the value of money is going down. And that because the cost of things in a panda. If I gave you 1,000 last year, and told you to go to Naivas and do a shopping, you'd come with very, very different things from what you'd come with today. And that also implies that next year, unless something changes, again, that 1,000 will not be shopping what it's shopping right now. So right now the inflation in the country is about 7.9. That means if you are shopping with 1,000 shillings today, that which you would buy next year, you'd need to use 1,079 shillings, basically. That's how money is losing value. So I want to talk from a place of a point where someone has money, ako na pesa, and lying in a bank account, in their pocket, days where people are hiding under the mattress, that it's not wise. Because of the inflation, everywhere you keep your money should be at a place where you are getting something that is more than 7.9% currently. Otherwise, you're losing value for your money.
So how do you do this?
So, being a banker, I saw people a lot of time come and want to fix money in their accounts. And some leave it in a current account. So this is where financial literacy really comes in. Because the best rate usually, unless you negotiate with banks, is 4%. That is if you're getting anything. Those are fixed account, those are call accounts. But basically you'll see someone who is living over 1 million shillings in an account, in a current account. What that person is doing, they are losing value for their money. Because that 1 million next year will not do that. So I invite everyone to do a bit of homework. In these times, you can't afford to be ignorant about where to put your money. There are money market funds that offer rates that are better 8%, some 10%. And because of time, we might not be able to go into that. So let everyone who is keeping money because of the inflation, make sure that the money is kept at a rate higher than the inflation. Otherwise, that money that you have will not give you value. I mean, I hope I'm being clear.
It is very clear.
Yeah.
Now, let's say I have this 100,000, this 50,000 lying somewhere. I have to keep it in circulation.
Yeah.
With institutions that offer more than 4%.
Okay, a disclaimer about this. You cannot be able to keep all the money above that. I would want to talk about this principle about savings that are lasting, like a month or two. But of course, for daily expenditure, you might not really want to go through the hassle of putting it in a money fund, and then when you need. But when you are looking at money that you put in a sinking fund, money that you put on an emergency fund, and these things I hope we'll find time another day to explain them. Money that you're keeping for school fees for next term, then that money really needs to be put in a way that it earns interest. Otherwise, this is zingine kidogo za mboga za nini za shopping. Now that one, that's okay. But I am here to disadvantage people from keeping money idle in an account that is not earning you anything, because what you're doing is losing money, and the inflation is going up. So I meant this was very important information. Shop around. That's why we are there, financial coaches, financial advisors. Talk to someone who can advise you accordingly. But make sure that your money is not lying idle because it's losing value.
Yes.
That's the point.
Let's now take a look on sustainable spending.
Sustainable.
Now this is where every other problem comes in.
Yeah.
You know, you get your salary today, tomorrow you start telling people, hata sijui liishaje. I don't exactly know where my money went to.
Yeah.
Sustainable spending. What is that?
Wow. I'm just taking a break so that I begin with vigor and energy. Money, when you talk about money, is much more than the tips that I can give here, managing it, because it's an energy in itself.
Yes.
And there's an attitude you need to take. So even if I gave you 100 points, and your attitude towards living does not change, really that will not help. So there are two attitudes I would want us to adapt. We are helping the 85% of people who are struggling with the cost of living. Me and you there, because we are still trying to meet the needs. And what I would say is, first, you need to get to a place of acceptance that I as SAMMY, this is 50,000 that I'm earning, this is 20,000 that I am earning, and this 20,000 is not enough. Because if you live in denial, that's why unaonanga watu, you accumulate debt from the credit card, fuliza. Because by the time you are making those decisions, the first question should be, how will I sort this? So I would want to deal with an attitude first of accepting that these are hard financial times, and what we have is not enough. So that place of acceptance is a good place to begin. Number two attitude that I want us to adapt before we go to the nitty-gritties of how you manage with that little money is readiness to adjust. Acceptance and readiness to adjust. Because you cannot be saying that pesa haitoshi and you don't want to change nothing. Because we are there wishing that itatosha na utaki kuchange. You clearly can see that your 2000 cc car is becoming too expensive for you. You don't want to downgrade. You don't want to commute. And your salary has not increased.
Yes, you want to keep on driving.
You want to keep on driving. So two attitudes that we must have during these hard economic times, unless something significant changes to your income, is the acceptance and the adjustment.
Yes.
That put down. Now we can go into how of adjusting. So you must sit down with yourself candidly and say, this is my pay, these are my obligations, these are my debts. Actually, I would really want to come here and talk about debt, because you never get out of debt before you accept that these are my debts. And I must do something about it. Facing the reality of really what it is that you are dealing with. So let's accept that these are hard economic times, COVID and all these other factors, the international wars, the change of climate, the increase in population has brought us here. So let's accept that that's where we are. Let's now talk of how to adjust. And I would want to talk about the major expenses, and I know there are more, but the major needs. I have little children who are still in CBC, and they keep on telling me, you know what the teacher taught us? He taught us the needs and wants, and that's very good. Yes. Because nowadays, when they ask for something, I am able to ask them, is that a need? Or is it a want? Or a need shouldn't wait, a want can wait. So when we look at adjusting, we are talking about housing, food, childcare. These are mandatory things. Transport, healthcare, and taxes.
Tax.
And tax.
Yes.
A very emotive subject, because especially wale wenye wameajiriwa, there is no escape, and even the ones who are not, we ought to pay taxes. So that becomes a mandatory expense. And number 7, I want to add any other necessary expenses. Necessary expenses, because for you, we might think dressing well is not important, but the kind of job that you're doing, that is a necessary expense. Yeah, there's someone driving is not a necessary expense, but there's another person their job demands that is a necessary expense. That's why I've added number 7. So in all these 7, what can we do? In all these 7, what can we do? First, before I go into the other smaller expenses, let me talk about one of the very huge expenses that people cater for, and even nations, and it's debt.
Debt.
Yes. You realize that much as we don't talk about it in the list of the 7 that I have just mentioned, much of people's money goes into debts.
Yes.
And ndio maana ukienda kutumia mtu do siku hizi anakuambia usiweke kwa simu,
unafuliza
sijui nini. So debt is something that we need to address. And how would I say is the way to address debt for you to be able to live within means? Look at your debts. And there are two things I would propose. One is consolidation of debts. You know, the way you go, like, if this debt was to become one and the installment became smaller, then probably instead of me paying 15,000 in total, I would be able to pay 10,000. Consolidation of debt is very important.
Yes.
So you may need to talk to your financial institution, combine your debts, and have a consolidated debt that is able to give you a breathing space, because kuna watu wenye kabisa wana breathing space. It has been suffocated by all the deductions that are going in. So I would propose, and I propose this from a history of a banker and a lender. People would come when I was a banker and say, hizi loans zimekuwa mingi, unaweza ona kama hii overdraft na hii car loan unaweza zicombine. Then you realize that when that conversation is there, someone is able now to breathe. Because honestly, some people have been suffocated by the amount of debt. The other thing I would propose in terms of debt is paying the high interest debts first. Unajua Kenya tuangaliangi, ninapata 10k. But it's important that you look at the debt that accumulates more interest, because in the long run you will pay more. So pay beginning with that one. And if possible, now we are talking about a desperate case, get money from the cheaper one, pay that one, you know, so that you get some breathing space. Because hakuna haja you earn all your money and go to debt, because if you don't make this adjustment concerning debt, again you get into more debts. Because when a child comes from school and they don't have school fees, what do?
An option of lending. Yeah,
you borrow once again. So debt is something that we need to adjust. So you'll allow me to go through the very other ways of dealing with the other expenses, and let's come to housing.
Yes, now that is where the problem is. Your money is your money. My money is ours. And now let's take a look on this, specifically rent. You make, what percentage should go to rent? Because people in Nairobi believe that you have to live in a very good house.
This is also something I would say we leave to discretion. But the rule of the thumb as financial advisors is only 70% of your income should go into your living. How you divide that is up to you. Only 70, if you are ever to become financially free, only 70% of your income should go into expenses.
Yes.
Nyumba, transport, education, and if you have a mortgage, iko hapo kwa sababu iko hapo kwa housing, everything should fit in 70%. There's someone who will say, I'd better pay a house in Ngara, 15,000, and commute with 2K. Another person will say, I would better pay a house in Ruaka at 7,000 and commute with 4,000. It's up to you.
Yes.
Because our lives are very different. But all your expenses put together should not exceed 70%. If you are to be financially free someday.
Yes.
And financial freedom is something we'll talk about another day. Yeah.
So let's talk about rent.
Housing. We are at a time where it is so stylish to have space.
Yes.
The more space, you know, we all see all this house to us. But in these times, let everyone live their reality. We are not saying that you compromise on your comfort, because pia tunaweza kuwa too stingy on ourselves until you have a kijana that is mkubwa analala hapo. We are not trying to recommend that. All we are saying, this is not time to have extra space.
Yes.
And I'll give an example with my life. When I look back to my days of employment, there's one time I was single, working in a town up country, and I used to have a 2-bedroom house. No child, no husband. clearly that is wastage. Why would I need a 2-bedroom house? And honestly, even if I would have visitors, it is once or twice a year. I would rather wait for those visitors, get them a room, get them a hotel.
It saves a lot.
Yeah, it saves a lot. So look at your space. Do you need it? If you are a homeowner, can you rent out some of the extra space? You really, I look at it and think this was total wastage. Because I would easily have lived in a 1-bedroom house. I would easily have lived in a bed-sitter. So clearly, look at yourself and see, is this space necessary? And don't shy off from moving to a neighborhood that you can afford. Because ukiona shortfall zako ni 10K and you're living in a house that is unnecessarily expensive, probably that little adjustment of rent would give you the break that you really need. So my recommendation is that evaluate as a family, as say, we may want a house that has an office, for example, or a family room, but not now. Because times are hard, let's just be in a house where everyone has a place to sleep. And you realize that now life becomes easier.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's come to education, because that is now where the entire money or your entire salary might be going every month. And we've seen celebs specifically, a few of them a few months ago. There was one who said that I wish I knew the much I was paying for school fees because of pressure. You know, my friends, you have a friend who has taken the kids to an international school where you spend like 100K every term. Yet you are still in the same cocoon of, yes, I'm a celeb, but I have to take my kid to this 10K school a term. What is now, how do you consider in terms of education? Because we also understand that education is very critical. Education is very critical, and you really need to make good decisions in terms of how much you need to spend in matter school. Yes.
As I said, this is an emotive subject because children are very dear to our hearts and we want the best for them. Yeah. My recommendation as a financial coach and as a parent is that consider options that are good. Because I might be in one school that I'm paying 100,000, but there's an equally good school in my neighborhood that I can get at 70. So we are not saying compromise on the quality of education of your children. Yes. We are saying look at the options. Because some of the flamboyance I see with schools is not necessary. And really look in that school, why is the school fees that high? If the school fees is that high because my 3-year-old is playing ballet or whatever, something I can pay on a Saturday, 1,000, a class somewhere, then that is not a need. But if your children are in a relatively expensive school because of the quality of education and the values in the school, because those for me are bare minimums, then probably you might need to keep them. So every child, every parent, in the class, the school, the class of the school you would want to educate your children in, there are other options. Yes. And my advice would be consider the other options, and if one is cheaper than the other but still gives your child value, embrace it. Yeah. And this thing of living like the other, the celebrity way, I really don't think is necessary. I think we need to get comfortable in our skin and know that this is my children I am parenting, and this is a good school for them. They don't have to go to the very expensive school for me to fit a class, because that fitting in a class is what is giving you a sleepless night. Yes. Yeah.
You end up into debts.
Yeah, I end up into debts. And then, as I said, there's something called financial freedom. When will you ever come to a place where you don't have to work? You know, most of us work because we must work. Yes. But there are people in this country and in this world who work because they want to work.
Sustainability.
Yes, and that is what we call financial freedom. So if you keep on funding recurrent expenditure, you are not able to get to the financial freedom because it comes from a place of investing. Yes. A topic for another day again.
Well, this morning I get to understand that money in itself is an energy that unless you learn how to manage that energy. It might overpower you, or you might overpower it. So it's just a matter of learning how to manage this kind of energy that comes your way every month as money. Well, let's now take a look on an issue that most of us, you know, when you're young, you say, I have the energy, but you get a little bit breakthrough, then you're like, I need to drive, I need to be comfortable, I won't walk to work anymore. You get transport. Because we understand it is also an expenditure that you have to account for.
Transport. I am a firm believer in the Word of God. And there's a scripture that helps me in the book of Proverbs. And it says that where there's no vision, people lack restraint. Why people would get into influence and pressure usually is because there's no vision. But if you have a vision, then that dictates the decisions you make, even unto which car you drive and when. So other people stop being the reason. So we can never separate financial matters with goals in life. And when we are taking someone through coaching, financial coaching, the first thing is for us to draw up a plan of your short-term plan, like 1-2 years plans of your finances, 5 years and 10 years and 20 years, like that. So that if you would want to be having an income stream of 500,000 in the next 10 years, then that will inform the decisions you make today. That said, transport is a basic need, and driving is very necessary. However, there are times unaangalianga unaona with my current financial situations, I better commute. Because some people live conveniently on the road, but they still break the bank over the same. Then, this is where I was bringing in the issue of downgrading. I try nowadays to look at, now after I became a financial coach, I try to look at the wisdom of the Asian, and it amazes me. And that's why they are very peaceful, living to old age, because you'll see them with the too small van, and that thing is around 800 cc's at most. That Muhindi will run all the errands, and in the evening they'll have spent more than 1,000 shillings. Me, who is still struggling, even to meet my basic needs, I have no investment at all. I do not have a bond anywhere. I do not have shares. I do not have anything that I can show for my pay. I am driving a 2,500 cc car. Comfortably. Not even comfortably, because as I fuel it at the gas station,
that is what we see. You are very comfortable.
Yeah, we are seeing you are very comfortable, but right inside there is a lot of pain. So my recommendation here would be that people downgrade to a smaller size car. And there's a time I did my mathematics on the car I was driving, and I had driven it for like 2-3 years. I realized that I had bought such a car. The amount I had spent on fuel, and that is how I disposed it. Yes, I had bought another car. So when you are buying these machines, look at the recurrent expenditure, and if necessary, downgrade. You can still have a beautiful car. You are the only one who would know how big the engine is, but use something that is reasonable based on your pay. And clearly, there are people who are over it, they are comfortably able to fuel any car, and we all hope that we'll get there. But let's not strain to get there. The other day I was asking a friend of mine, and I know they might be watching right now. The reason why you have this big engine car is probably because you'll go to Muranga 1-2 times in a year. Why can't you hire a car for that? And then have a very small car that helps you run your errand. You go to the market with it. You take your children to school with it. You go to church with it. You are comfortable. But now when you want to show up somewhere, go hire a car. Because that is more sustainable than having this car that is guzzling every day as you go to work and coming back. So as we said, we go back to the attitude. You must accept and adjust. Yeah, that's what I would say about transport.
Let's now talk of someone who doesn't have a car, but they still have this transport as need. You get? Yes, now you're making 20,000. Still on our initial reference, point of reference, you're making 20,000, and you've just been giving me an example of someone who prefers to live in Ruaka, and this other person prefers to live near town and still spend 2,000, 4,000 on transport. So how do you work around to make sure that this 20,000 of mine, apart from paying these other needs, transport is also sorted?
Now, where there is a will, there is a way. Let me tell you what we do in coaching. Coaching is unlike training. What I'm doing today is more of training. But coaching is helping a client get solutions for their needs.
Yes.
And what I would say is that you're living in Githurai, for example. And you know that ikifika 7, basi ni 80. Lakini nikaeza enda Githurai 6, basi ni 40. Why wouldn't you wake up early, be in the office early, do more, and leave early and use less? I mean, we cannot be able to advise everyone here, but where there is a will, there is a way. It's about knowing where you are going, because I know people who will even be in town as early as 5:30, and that is how they manage their cost. Yes. And that person, again, if they have the freedom in their workplace, they will be done with their work at 5 at the dot, or even 4:30. So before the prices hike, again, because they are organized and they know what they are working towards, they will be able again to catch a mat that is not charging them 100 to Githurai. Again, they go back with 60 shillings. You know, these changes, commute when it is cheaper. I live in a place that is not on the road, and I've seen people in our estate just consolidate. SAMMY goes to work, me, or like 5 of us, and then we tell each other, instead of commuting, why don't we give each one 100 shillings, and then we are able to go to work. All these solutions are found because there is a will, and it works for all of us, because the one who is driving would have driven along all that road alone and used the 500, but now there are 5, each one uses 100, or even 150, and they have even the parking fees. Then in the evening they come together. I mean, we can get creative. If we know what we are dealing with, we can get creative. So look at times when it is not as expensive. Look at those consolidated arrangements of transport. Yeah. And what is wrong with walking? Yes. What is wrong with walking? Because if I can walk from here to there, I mean, we are talking about desperate situations and desperate times, and I'm talking to someone who probably, kwenye anaenda, analipanga so, but probably if they walked for 10 minutes, they would pay 70.
Yes. Now let's now take a look on 2 issues just before we move to how you can expound your income streams. Let's talk about food, and then quickly trickle down to tax as an issue. Food in itself. Food in itself.
When we talk about downsizing and being economical in food, we are not saying that you change the diet. We are only saying that you eat rice and meat. But this rice, you don't have to buy it at the very expensive store.
Yes.
You can get your, first of all, one of the things that I would help mothers, because I'm one of them with, is that buying in bulk is always cheaper. So, and because it might be expensive at the beginning to buy 10 liters of cooking oil, a bag of rice, why don't you say that every month I'll buy one thing in bulk? So that as you continue like that, you realize that your budget is growing smaller. Because as you allow yourself to buy on a retail, someone is getting a margin from it. Now the more unakimbilia vitu za 10 bob, za 20 bob, the cumulative cost at the end of the month is expensive. So my advice is buy in bulk. Even if it's the market, go to the market on a Saturday or on a day that you are free. Buy things for a week or 2.
Yes.
So that buying in bulk makes it cheaper. Look for discounts. There are a lot of discounts on our supermarkets today. You go to Carrefour, wame cancel prices, this is cheaper. Don't be lazy, just find out, or just be on an online platform where you know milk in Carrefour today has an offer. In Naivas, Cooking oil has an offer. And don't downplay those things. You might realize that in one shopping of a month, you have saved 1,000, which is enough for your grocery. So that is the way to navigate this cost thing. I've also seen mamas in chamas where we say we are buying in bulk, but mimi kwa sababu siwezi nunua mchele a whole bag, why don't we come 5 of us? Yeah, when we cost share, then tunagawana. The other thing, this is not the time where I think me in the past when I used to go to the village, napewa mahindi nasema mimi sitabeba. Maharagwe nasema mimi sitabeba. But I remember when we were growing up, specifically on my case, my mother and my father, they used to have a bag of maize and a bag of beans. Na nakumbuka at one point, they used to lock it in their bedroom. That is how food security was important. But now we'll go to the village, come, and some of us are driving, and even commuting. But ukifika huku Nairobi, na umeacha mahindi yenye umeambiwa na mama yako beba, unakuta unga ni 230, then we tuna demonstrate. Anyway, so what I'm saying is that let's adopt these things. Let's have a budget. Don't walk into a supermarket without have a budget that has prices. So by the time unaenda unakuta tissue imefika for 30, you are looking for cheaper options because you had budgeted. So basically that. Is there anything I can add on cost on food? Yes. One last thing. Reduce on eating out, and if possible, pack your food. Yes.
Because of time, I want us to just highlight in short, in terms of I've been making 20K, I've been making 30K, 90,000, 150, 200. But then, you know, as the cost of living continue going up each and every day, I also need a way to make sure that I'm able to sustain this much I'm making and increase, make it either double or triple, slowly by slowly. So what are some of the key factors that I can consider in terms of now investing and increasing my income flow?
Thank you. Allow me to recap just in one sentence that we said we will look at the value for money today and tomorrow, which we have. We have looked at practical ways of reducing the cost of living, and we cannot exhaust because time will not allow, and there are many things we can recommend. But there we said that where there is a will, there is a way. Now let's come to income. Increasing income. There is one person I met who was very young, and I asked them, they were the CEO of a multinational. I asked them, how did you get there? To the top. And they told me that many other factors, but changing of jobs. And employers really, you really have to bear with me. But sometimes it becomes hard to negotiate your pay up. So with reasonable time, si ati uko hapa hii mwezi, next month uko pale, because you also need to get experience so that you can have something you're holding as you're negotiating. Negotiate your pay up with your employer, and also be open your eyes, because there could be someone who is looking for someone and they can give you a better offer. These are the time where, with all honesty, we need to look for better opportunities, but in a good way. Sio kwa madharau, sio watu kwa sababu tuko hapa ati sasa tufanye kazi vibaya. But there comes a time where switching jobs helps you get a bargain. Number 2, upskilling. Because we want an increase in income, but there is nothing more you are giving. Or how you used to read news is the way you are reading news, there's nothing else you are doing. So we need to get the necessary skills that are marketable, so that even when you're facing your employer and saying, I need a salary rise, you're able to say, apart from this, when I'm not reading the news, I'm just giving an example, I'm able to do this and this. So add your value, increase your value, so that you can have a better bargain. So those are some of the recommendations I would give to the employed, and speak up with respect and honor. Say this is it. This is the value I'm bringing, and every negotiation of an increase of pay must come from a place of value. Where's amka tu sema that the cost of living has gone up, because even your employer, their cost of living has gone up. So it is we negotiate for increase of pay based on value. Not on emotions, not on mandamano. It doesn't work that way. So that is my first recommendation. Number 2, there are a lot of remote jobs. The blessings of COVID again. It was a bad thing, but God works all things for good. A lot of remote jobs, just to know that whether you can do a remote job here and there when you're not in the office, you can do a few things remotely. Finally, these are the days of side hustles. And I talk about side hustles with a lot of emotions because there are people who lose more money in side hustles more than they gain. Again, you don't get into side hustles without proper research.
Yes.
I'll give an example of myself. Most of the days I'll take my children to school. From the time these times became very hard, I decided, apart from what I do, I will always have something in my boot that I can sell women, my friends, when I go to party, I'll have something, pillowcases, pillow selling. So these are not the days that you just don't want to think about how to make an extra coin. So when I'm seeing you, Sammy, here, tukitoka na hapo nje, naweza fikiria, there are these dishes I'm selling. There are these pillowcases, very generic things. And they have helped me. Sometimes I'll go to a function and that car hustle gives me my fuel back. This is a time to continually think about how we can make an extra coin. Natuweke kiburi chini. Really, let's try. Let's try do something, something extra. Is there anything that I've left that I would want to recommend? Upskill, consider side hustle. I mean, I would want to leave it at that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that is Dorcas Wangui. Your parting shot as we clear in terms of financial management from a personal level and also from the investment level, because I'm getting into this investment as it might sound as a side hustle, but it might also be an investment. It might end up to sprout and become something big.
My parting shot will be that let everyone deal with their financial illiteracy. Because it is the illiteracy that helps, that causes us to fall into these traps where, and I have been that and done that, where you hear of an opportunity, you have nothing about, unasikia, oh, the return is this. So even as we deal with this pressure, let's be very sober, let's be very alert, read books on finances. Nowadays, information is so much on the social media. Let's be educated. Let's accept to pay, because the cost of ignorance is very high. That's why financial coaches like us are there. Well, look for someone, pay. Because in Kenya, and I think it's generally in the world, we are taught a lot on how to unafunzwa course you earn. No one really shows you how to take care of that money, grow it, and preserve it. Yes. So it's upon you. That's my parting shot. That you educate yourself on money, and even these things that we are talking about, no one should be ignorant about, because we are in the information age, and this is what will make your working I mean, worthwhile. Yes. Yeah, that's my parting shot.
Well, many thanks for joining us this morning and for the much information you've given us this morning. But I'll just remind you two things that today I think I'm taking home. Money is an energy in itself. Unless you know how to deal with the energy, contain it, it might overpower you, which will never work to your good. And also, where there is a will, there will always be a way out. So think of a way, think of how to better yourself through the match you're making every single month. Well, that has been Dorcas Wangui. Thank you for joining us this morning, and thank you. But remember, value of money affects the match you have, so don't let it just lay there. And also sustainable spending. That is now where the entire issue comes in, and she has just clearly told us that make sure your spending doesn't go beyond 70% of your income. And also think, be creative in terms of how can I increase my income stream. Well, I'll leave it at that. My name is SAMMY ADIKA. Many thanks for tuning in EBN Morning Live. Until next time, do have yourselves a wonderful day ahead. Thank you. Thank you.